So we got some new breaking information in regards to Square Enix reportedly looking to sell off stakes in some of their remaining studios. This comes to us from IGN as well as VGC. VGC actually breaks down this news in a much more detailed fashion, so we'll be pulling from that article mostly. However, the articles do state that Crystal Dynamics and Eidos were apparently cannibalizing from Square Enix's wider set of studios, which is one of the reasons why Square decided to sell off a majority of their Western IPs and studios to the Embracer Group, effectively saving them a ton of money and allowing them to focus more on their Japanese games, which is something that the president of Square Enix has stated they really want to do. They want to focus more on Japanese games instead of making games that try to appeal to Western audiences. Now, I'm no business expert, but I have watched a lot of Shark Tank.
Hi, my name's Lindsay Lorraine and I'm from Parker, Colorado. I am the founder of Easy Peasy.
I'm out.
So I'm kind of familiar with some of these terms here and there. However, VGC goes on to break down some things, saying that some studios will remain 100%, while others will change in terms of equity method or joint venture. Also stating that Square will look to explore and expand their studio portfolio. David Gibson also goes on to say that during that phone call, the biggest impact will be on European and US studios around large titles, and that the changes mean that Square Enix will be able to allocate resources mainly to their Japanese titles. So here's the interesting thing here. Square Enix supposedly is looking to sell off stakes in their studios to improve their capital efficiency. And here's a really interesting thing that starts to line up with rumors we've been hearing in regards to Sony potentially being interested in parts of Square Enix. If you remember from our last Sony Square Enix video, it was talking about Sony only being interested in the Tokyo division of Square Enix instead of the entirety of the studio. So that's where that rumor may possibly come from. So Sony may potentially be interested in buying stake or equity in sections of Square Enix, meaning that Tokyo division. However, David Gibson does go on to say that companies, again, like Sony, Tencent, and Nexon would most likely be the companies that are most interested in buying equity and stake into these companies. Now, here's another really interesting part of the article. Square Enix capitalized game dev costs are currently running at $840 million, he writes, but post the Crystal Dynamics Eidos sale, the company will have $1.4 billion in cash and zero debt, which is plenty to fund expended game investment and not sell down stakes in its studios. So by selling off those Western studios and IPs, they've effectively gotten rid of their debt and saved some money, which will allow them to focus more on Japanese titles and not try to create Western games or games that appeal to Western companies, which makes sense. It always felt kind of odd that Square Enix was getting more into Western gaming, acquiring the likes of Crystal Dynamics and Eidos, and publishing games like Tomb Raider and Deus Ex always felt kind of weird coming from a Japanese-focused company like Square Enix. But now that they've offloaded a lot of those IPs have chances to find new life with other companies, namely the Embracer Group, allowing Square Enix to focus more on their Japanese titles, which is really their bread and butter when you really think about it. That's how they've made their name in the gaming industry, is with games like Final Fantasy, Dragon Quest, Kingdom Hearts, the list really goes on. So this is some really interesting news, and I think all the years of watching Shark Tank kind of prepping me for an article like this. There's a lot of business jargon going on here, but I think the basic gist of the article is that Square is selling off those Western IPs to make money to then funnel into their Japanese games, because that's where their main focus should probably be. So that's pretty much the video. That's the article. Leave your thoughts in the comments down below. What do you guys think of this news? What do you think of Square focusing more on their Japanese titles instead of trying to appeal to the Western audiences? I will see you guys in the next video. Please remember to always be excellent to one another.